The sea was black glass beneath the moon, broken only by the crawling reflections of 100 lanterns that swung from the masts of the Iron Fleet. Theon Greyjoy stood alone on the prow of the Sea Bitch, boot heels planted wide, gloved fingers curled around the damp rail. Salt wind lifted his hair, and the taste of brine clung to his lips like an old lover. Far off, the distant coastline of the Westerlands lay in darkness, its jagged silhouette a promise and a warning both. He drew a long breath, letting the cold seep into his lungs. Every choice has a price, he thought, but some debts come due sooner than others. Behind him, the deck creaked with cautious footsteps. Dagmar Cleftjaw halted 2 paces back, hands tucked into the folds of his salt-stiffened cloak. The old raider's ruined cheek and broken teeth were stark in the moonlight, giving him the look of a grinning corpse. "Still brooding, boy?" Dagmar rasped, voice sanded by years of salt and smoke. He alone dared call Theon boy these days, perhaps because he alone had known him as one. "Thinking," Theon answered. "Thinkings for maesters and fishwives." The older man snorted. "Better to trust your blade than your thoughts." "I spent half my life trusting other men's thoughts," Theon said. "Robb's, Ned Stark's, even Lord Balon's. Where did that leave me?" Dagmar leaned against the rail, a step closer to glory than most. "Glory?" Theon barked a short laugh, though it held no mirth. "I took Winterfell once, and the world called me traitor. I bent the knee to Ramsay, and they called me coward. Tell me, Dagmar, what will they call me now?" "Alive," the old reaver said. "Alive and feared. That's enough." Grey water whispered against the hull, a lullaby only the drowned could love. Theon watched the waves slide past, wondering how many men below decks shared his doubts. The Ironborn had followed him from Pike when he set sail beneath his father's banner. But Balon was bones now, feeding crabs beneath the waves. After the Kingsmoot, while Euron crowed of dragons and doom, Theon had slipped away with the loyal few. Dagmar, Asha, Christopher Botley, and a tidal flood of captains eager for a clearer course than the Crow-Eye's mad dreams. They had sailed north first, to swear the old vows of salt and storm before Naga's bones. There, beneath the bleak sky, Theon sank knee-deep into the surf and spoke his truth. He would never bear the Kraken helm, never claim to be king lest the silence howl for his blood. But he would lead, as the son of Balon, the brother of Asha, the last Greyjoy not mad with prophecy. Led them where? To Casterly Rock. Dagmar shifted, wood groaning under his weight. "First light soon. If the tides favor us, we'll be ashore before the lions know we're at their gate." "They'll hear the drums," Theon said. "Let them." He turned, scanning the fleet, all longships sleek and hungry. Leviathan, Seafoam, Iron Kiss, Maiden's Bane, names painted in pitch above snarling prows. Dozens more lurked behind, invisible save for the gleam of wet decks. He counted hulls by instinct and found comfort in the number. Enough to storm a city's harbor. Enough to crack a rock. He closed his eyes. In memory, Robb Stark's voice echoed, "If you need me, send word." But Theon had not. He had turned south, hoping to wear a Kraken's crown. Now Robb was only a song, the young wolf butchered at the Twins. And Theon, breathing still, meant to pay the wolf's debt in iron and fire. A shout rippled from ship to ship. "Lights off the port bow!" Theon's eyes snapped open. Far ahead, a single torch flared on a small cliffside tower, then winked out, an all-clear signal from his forward scouts. He exhaled, tension leaking from his shoulders. "All hands," he called, voice carrying over the deck. "Make ready to beach on my command." Silent as shadows, swift as sharks, men hurried to tasks. Steel whispered from scabbards. Sails unfurled with soft sighs. At the masthead, the Kraken banner unfurled, its black cloth rippling against a moonlit sky. He felt Dagmar's gaze. "You still fear this choice?" the old man asked quietly. "I fear every choice," Theon said. "But I make them anyway." "Then you're no boy." A horn moaned low, echoing across the dark. Theon lifted his hand, and oars dipped as one. Seabitch slid forward. Around her, the fleet moved like a school of hunting sharks, silent save for the soft slap of water. Minutes stretched into hours while shoreline grew from shadow to substance. Towering cliffs loomed, crowned by jagged teeth of rock, the seaward face of Casterly Rock. Even in darkness, its magnitude humbled. 900 feet of golden stone, riddled with tunnels, storerooms, and halls for the Lannister line. Walls above, waves below. Impregnable, they called it. But walls matter little when the foe rises from beneath the waves. Asha joined him on deck. Her hair was bound in a warrior's knot, her armor oiled to a dull gleam. She tossed him a grin. Ever dream of betting a lion, little brother? Not lately. Well, tonight you might have your chance. She gestured to the looming cliffs. Beneath those towers lies countless gold, but I want the lion's roar itself. Imagine old Tywin rolling in his grave when his cubs wail that krakens breached their den. He's ash and dust, Theon muttered. His cubs will fight. All the better. Asha's grin sharpened. Another horn sounded, 3 sharp notes, signal to break formation. Smaller longships peeled from the main body, slipping into sea-cut coves. These carried sappers and climbers, men tasked with scaling half-flooded tunnels revealed only at lowest tide. If rumor held true, those tunnels led to the very belly of the rock. Seabitch glided toward a narrow shingle beach at the cliff's base. Oars were shipped, and the hull grated upon wet sand. Ropes flew, anchors sank. Ironborn leapt into knee-deep surf, weapons held high. Theon followed, cold water biting through his boots. He slogged ashore, scanning for sentries. None. The western seaward approach was deemed safe by the Lions. No invading army could scale sheer cliffs under arrow fire. They had never considered the Kraken's creed. We do not so we take. From any angle. Dagmar hefted a prybar as if it were a war axe. Tunnel mouth, he called, pointing at a low arch half hidden by rockfall. 2 sappers hurried forward, lugging casks of pitch. They pried aside stones, revealing a gaping maw big enough for a crouching man. Dark water lapped at the threshold, sighing into unknown depths. Asha crouched. I'll lead the first wave. Like salt you will. Theon pushed past. Your task is the harbor once we open the gates. Storm the docks, burn their ships, sever the rock's lifeline. And yours. To gut the lion where he sleeps. He met her eyes. We break their pride tonight, sister. See it done. She laid a hand on his shoulder, a rare tenderness. Don't drown, she said. A crooked grin tugged his mouth. Not after coming so far. Torches were wrapped in oilskin to smother flames, leaving only faint red coals for guidance. The first men slipped into the tunnel, water waist-deep and rising toward hidden chambers. Theon followed, Dagmar at his back, then 20 hand-picked reavers. Harl the Spear, Wex Pike, Gerold Goodbrother, others proven on raiding shores. Dark swallowed them. Water echoed, sloshing against stone. The air stank of salt and rot, tinged with the faintest hint of furnace heat. Forge fires high above, perhaps. They pressed on, wading deeper. The tunnel angled upward, water draining away until boots struck slick flagstones. At a fork, Wex lit a torch. Flickering light revealed carven walls. Lions in bas-relief, their manes gilded with flaking gold leaf. Wealth even here, Theon thought. He spared no pause. Left passage. Hours seemed to pass inside the rock's bowels, though in truth mere minutes crept by. They climbed spiral stairways, avoided guardrooms by listening for voices, and slit a lone sentry's throat when he stumbled upon them. Dagmar pressed him into a niche, blood pooling at his boots. Up another stair, they reached a black iron door barred by bronze. Muted voices beyond, 2 guards perhaps. Theon motioned. Dagmar mouthed, "Your blade." He nodded. For men readied axes while Harl produced a thin pry tool. At Theon's signal, the wedge slipped beneath the bar. With a breath, Harl heaved. Wood splintered. The door shuddered. A guard shouted. Axes crashed. The bar flew. Theon kicked, door swinging inward to reveal a torchlit antechamber and two astonished Lannister guards in lion-headed helms. Steel flashed. The fight was swift, brutal. When silence fell, one lion lay headless, the other gurgling as blood bubbled from his slit throat. Theon wiped his blade on crimson and gold surcoat. Ahead, a corridor stretched toward lamplit grandeur. Banners of crimson, carpets thick as meadow moss, polished marble walls veined with gold. They had breached the rock proper. He allowed himself a breath. "Hold here," he ordered. Wex blocked the door with the fallen bar. Gerold doused torches to mere embers. In the hush, Theon listened to the rock's heart. The faint clang of distant forges, murmurs of servants, a child's laughter echoing through stone like some ghost. Lannisters safe in their den. Not for long. He drew the reavers close. "4 tasks," he whispered. 1. Secure the armory. No blades for the lions. 2. Seize the eastern sally port and open gates to Dagmar's men waiting in the tunnels behind us. 3. Signal Asha by green flare to strike the harbor. 4. His jaw clenched. Take the high keep. Find Jaime Lannister if he's here. Cersei, any lion of name.
No ransom.
No quarter. Silence greeted him, heavy and fervent. Ironborn did not raise banners of mercy. They nodded in grim accord. "Positions," Theon breathed. They split. Harl led 3 toward the armory, moving like shadows across a marble floor. Dagmar remained with Theon, spear in hand. Gerold hefted an axe the size of a butcher's cleaver, ready for portcullis duty. Theon strode down the corridor. Each step seemed to echo his heartbeat. Soon, the lions would know what dread felt like when the sea crept into their halls. Casterly Rock's high keep rose around a central courtyard paved in cream and gold stone. Moonlight spilled through high windows, pooling like milk. Theon slid from column to column, Dagmar at his flank. Ahead, a pair of gold cloaks crossed on patrol, torches in hand. Theon counted their paces, timed the gap. At the 7th second, he darted forward.
Steel run.
One guard fell before his partner's eyes widened. Dagmar's spear punched through the other's mailed throat. They dragged bodies into shadow. A bell tower loomed above, silent now but sure to shriek at first alarm. Theon nodded at Dagmar. The old raider grinned through broken teeth and ascended spiral steps, intent on silencing the clapper rope. Theon pressed on alone. He entered a gallery lined with etched copper mirrors. His reflection glimmered, lean, sharp-featured, eyes alive with a terrible resolve. Had he ever looked thus at Winterfell? He barely recalled. But Ned Stark's ward was gone now. In his place stood a Kraken's son, and he would carve his name into Lannister stone tonight. At the gallery's far end, an ornate door stood ajar, light spilling from within. Voices drifted. A boy's high laugh, a woman's murmured reply. Theon's pulse quickened. He eased closer, pushing open the door with the flat of his blade. A sitting room, velvet drapes, couches laden with silk cushions, a hearth glowing low. Before it, a young girl, no more than 8, sat braiding blue ribbons into her doll's hair. Beside her, a woman, nursemaid, perhaps, dozed, chin upon chest. Theon froze. Damn. The girl looked up, eyes wide. "Who are you?" she whispered. "I'm a dream," he breathed, mind racing. "Close your eyes." Her lower lip trembled. He sheathed his blade, crouched. "Shoo!" he soothed, laying a finger to his lips. "Play the quiet game, little fish." "I'm not a fish," she whispered. "Tonight we all swim." He glanced to the corridor beyond. No footsteps yet. He reached into his belt, withdrew a silver coin stamped with a kraken. "Hold this for me. Token. When the sun rises, show it to the first Ironborn you see, and you'll be safe. Do you understand?" She nodded, tiny fingers closing around the coin. Tears pooled in her eyes, but she held silent. Theon rose, heart hammering. He closed the door behind him, leaving innocence in the dark. He had no love for lions, but some claws were yet soft. A shadow detached from a column. Wex Pike emerged, brows raised. "Armory taken," he whispered. "Barricaded. Geralt opens sally port now. 10 of ours within the walls already." Theon exhaled. "Signal Asha." Wex lit a slim green flare, cracked it. Emerald fire hissed skyward through an open skylight. Outside, the night swallowed it, then spat lurid green across sails and stone. Theon pictured Asha grinning, horns blowing aboard her ships. Distantly, the first boom of a war drum rolled across the sea. Then a second and a third. Theon smiled. Ironborn were coming. He raced toward the High Keep. Below, the harbor erupted. Gouts of flame leapt skyward as longships rammed moorings. Lannister war galleys burned, masts keeling like felled pines. Screams of sailors mingled with the crash of waves and the thunder of drums. But within the keep, confusion reigned. Servants fled in nightclothes, guards shouted contradictory orders, and still the great bell refused to ring. Dagmar had seen to that. Theon and Wex burst into a courtyard where a captain of the guard marshaled 50 men. Theon loosed an arrow into the captain's throat before they even turned. Then iron clashed gold. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to steel and sweat. Theon parried, riposted, ducked a sweeping halberd. Wex gutted a man in gilded plate. Geralt's axe split a helm like rotten fruit. Somewhere, a horn wailed, a desperate signal that help was needed, but none would come. When the last lion fell, Theon dragged his sleeve across his brow, smearing sweat and blood. "Upward," he gasped. "The rock's heart is above." They shouldered through a door into a grand stair spiraling around a shaft of polished marble. Atop, ornate doors stood flung wide, revealing the legendary Hall of Heroes. Statues of every Lannister lord since time immemorial lined the walls, their eyes cast in judgment as krakens dared tread their domain. A lone figure awaited before the high-backed crimson throne. Ser Kevan Lannister, silver-gold hair disheveled, sword bared. His age showed in creased brow, yet he stood tall, armor gleaming. "So the Kraken comes," he said evenly. His gaze flicked to Wex, to Geralt, but settled on Theon. "And sends a pup to do a king's work." "I serve no king," Theon said. "Only the sea." He stepped forward. "Where's your sister? Where's Jaime?" "On campaign," Kevan replied. "Would you lay hands upon a woman while her brother's away?" "I'll lay hands on whatever ensures victory." Kevan's eyes hardened. "Then face me first, Greyjoy." Theon nodded, motioned his men back. He drew his long sword, saluted. They circled, the hall's marble beneath slick with scattered torchlight. Kevan struck, sword arm steady. He forced Theon back, strokes measured, disciplined. Theon yielded ground, parried high, slid sideways between statues of Old Lon the Clever and Lady Sorrel, shattering centuries of dust. He felt Kevan's strength. Not youthful, but tempered, unyielding. "I can't outlast him," Theon realized. He feinted left, dropped low, slicing at Kevan's knee. The older knight twisted, blade descending. Steel scraped Theon's pauldron, drawing sparks. He rolled, came up inside Kevan's guard. Torchlight glinted off a golden breastplate gilded in roaring lion. Theon rammed his shoulder forward, driving Kevan against the base of a statue. Stone cracked. Kevan grunted, elbowed Theon's jaw. Stars burst behind his eyes. He ducked, slashed upward. His sword caught Kevan's gorget, tearing leather but not flesh. Kevan hammered pommel to skull. Pain bloomed. Theon staggered. He tasted blood. In that dizzy blur, he saw Winterfell's godswood, saw Maester Luwin's gentle eyes, heard Robb's laughter. All ghosts. "Yield," Kevan urged, breath rough. "I have no wish to kill a boy." "I am no boy," Theon hissed. He lunged. Kevan met him, blades locking. Face to face, Theon saw grief etched deep in the older man's features. Losses of war, weight of legacy. For an instant pity stirred. Then he twisted, sliding his dagger from belt, punching it between Kevan's plates beneath the arm. Kevan gasped. His sword clattered. Blood seeped around iron. Theon eased him down beside a statue of King Loren. "I showed mercy once," Theon whispered. It cost me everything. Kevin's lips moved. Tywin, forgive. Then his gaze glazed, head lolling. Theon rose unsteadily. Silence fell in the Hall of Heroes save the distant roar of burning ships. Wex stepped forward, face unreadable. "See to the gates," Theon said. "Raise the kraken above the rock." Wex saluted. Men hurried to obey, unspooling black banners from mezzanines. As Theon watched the kraken unfurl across Lannister gold, he felt an unexpected shiver. Victory should taste like salt and triumph. Yet somewhere within, a small voice whispered of children clutching silver coins, of halls scorched, of debts unpaid. But debts were his to bear. He turned away, striding toward a balcony overlooking the harbor. Below, Asha's ships glided amidst burning lion prows. Ironborn cheered, voices like crashing surf. The night sky blushed crimson. Casterly Rock burned. And Theon Greyjoy, son of Pike, heir of storms, stood upon its parapets with lion's blood still wet upon his blade, wondering if even victory could drown the voice of the drowned god whispering of deeper tides yet to come. Dawn found the kraken banner snapping in a wind heavy with ash and salt. Theon stood beside Asha atop the southern tower, surveying conquered spoils. Smoke drifted from gutted war galleys. Lannister corpses littered harbor quays. Lion's gold by the vault full, Asha reported, voice hoarse from battle songs. Barrel after barrel. Enough to line Pike with golden chains. Gold won't hold the rock, Theon murmured. He watched prisoners kneel in chains. Guards, servants, lesser cousins of the Lannister line. Their eyes held hate, not fear. Jaime will march, Asha admitted. Cersei will turn kings landing upside down for news. Let her. He flexed his scarred hand. Every lion that comes, we break, till the realm learns the sea's reach. Asha studied him. You mean to keep the rock? For now. He met her gaze. Long enough to bargain. The world must see iron on stone, kraken over lion. Then perhaps they will remember there is price for forgetting the sea. Far below, a bell began to toll, slow, sonorous. Its voice finally freed now that Dagmar no longer guarded the rope. It rang not as alarm but as requiem. Theon listened. In that mournful cadence he heard the sea's endless roar, heard Robb Stark's laughter, heard the Starks' dead voices calling home. But home was gone, swept by tide and flame. Only choice remained. He turned to the dawn, breath fogging. Send Raven to Riverrun, to Dragonstone, to every lord who despises the lion's roar. Tell them Casterly Rock has fallen, and the Greyjoys hold her gates. Asha grinned. And what if they refuse us? Then we teach them the sea's lessons. He rested a hand on the battlement, feeling rough stone beneath his palm. Storms come whether men will them or not. He closed his eyes, letting morning wind wash away the stink of blood. In its place rose the smell of salt, eternal and pure. Some debts might yet be paid. He had begun. Behind him, the bell tolled on, counting heartbeats, counting lives, counting the dawn of a new dread carved across Westeros by kraken claws. And Theon Greyjoy listened, unafraid. The morning sun still hovered low when a sudden roar thundered through the western tunnels. A deep, rattling percussion that shivered loose dust from the carved lion reliefs. Theon Greyjoy spun on the tower parapet, hand dropping instinctively to the hilt of his sword. Across the smoky harbor, the kraken banners snapped in the stiffening breeze. Yet beneath them, the Ironborn below began shouting warnings and rally cries. Asha, he barked, waving her toward him. She paced from the rampart stair, a bronze-capped spear resting across her shoulders, her grin already fading as she absorbed the echoes rolling up through stone. Underground, she growled. Something big just moved. Lions emerging? Theon scanned the yard. Too early for a relief army. Riverrun lay a week's march unless Jaime had ridden hard from the Trident. But the rock was riddled with forgotten mineshafts and vault passages. Some might open beyond the city walls or along cliff faces they had never mapped. Ironborn runners converged. One knelt on the blood-slick flagstones. Lord Theon, a blast from beneath the second bailey. tumbled the south inner wall. 50 men buried. Spiked barricades snapped like kindling. Theon's stomach nodded. Sabotage. Lion miners, Asha spat. They've blasted their own dun rock for a quick exit. He pictured Cersei's agents or Jaime's veterans. Men who knew the tunnels in ways no raider ever could. If they had broken through to daylight, they'd attempt to carve a corridor out to the landward side and hold it until Lannister banners arrived. Theon tightened his sword belt. Rally every shield in the upper keep. Dagmar holds the breach. He's already there, the runner said. Cleftjaw took 30 to plug the hole. Asha's brow furrowed. I'll drag another 50 from the lower vaults. Hold the walls till we come. He clapped her forearm. Go, and watch the flanks. If the breach widens, we fall back by balconies 4 and 5. She bounded away, shouting for pike axes and tower shields. Theon descended a spiral stair that smelled of smoke and lime dust. Tapestries lay ripped from brass hooks, thrown down as makeshift stretchers for the wounded. Maidservants and thralls scurried, eyes wide. Some bore water buckets, others clutched crying children. The conquerors and the conquered alike were raw in the hour after dawn. One side jubilant, the other broken, yet now fear mingled them. Near the base of the stair, a fresh slide of rubble forced him to duck. Pale morning light knifed through a jagged gap where yesterday an archway had stood. Stone lances jutted inward, edges charred and glassy. He tasted the tang of fresh gunpowder, dwarf's powder, as alchemists called it. Rare. Lannisters had spared none in retaking their home. Dagmar Cleftjaw crouched at the mouth of the new crater, bark-skinned hands shoveling fractured stones. His helmet was gone, gray hair plastered with blood. When he rose, his splintered teeth flashed in a crimson grin. They tried to birth themselves, but we're the midwives. How bad? Tunnel drovers came flooding, 36, armed with pikes and tower shields. More behind them. We sealed the first wave, but they held the blasted throat. Dagmar jabbed a thumb at the dark shaft beyond the rubble. Glowstones flickered there, revealing scuffed granite and broken struts leading downward. We tossed pitch casks and lit them, roasted some. Others still fighting. But they've a strong point now, halfway between Mines and Bailey. Theon crouched, peering into the gloom. Somewhere below echoed the clash of steel and muffled screams. From the side passage, wild sparks flared and died where oil fires licked damp walls. He measured the distance, too narrow for ranks, too slick for ladders. Can you hold it? Dagmar spat a gob of pink froth. As long as bodies stack in the choke, aye. But they'll press again once they smell fresh air. Then we'll starve them. Theon glanced up the fractured arch toward the nearest parapet. Shore the gap with beamwork and iron screens. Drag up quarried stones. Build a false wall behind this rubble. Leave only murder holes for crossbows. Dagmar's good eye gleamed. A tomb, then? Bury them alive. It's the sea's mercy. Theon fisted a chunk of blasted granite. Stone tides claim them. Ah! Dagmar slapped him on the shoulder. I'll fetch masons, quick ones. As Dagmar bellowed orders, Theon strode along the outer corridor to gauge further damage. Through slitted arrow loops, he saw ironborn drudges lugging beams across the courtyard, while torchbearers flagged positions where cracks spidered the flagstones. The rock itself groaned, a wounded beast but not yet dying. Inside a side chamber, once a wine cellar, he found Wex Pike kneeling beside a sprawled ironborn youth. The lad's forearm was bent in 2 places, bone white against black skin. Wex mutely bound the limb with a strip torn from his tunic. He glanced up at Theon, silent eyes a question. Tell him the drowned god keeps brave fish, Theon said softly. He'll mend. But the boy had already gone pale, breaths ragged. Farther on, Theon crossed the armory antechamber, now choked with plundered lion helms, and entered what had been the Lannister Great Forge. A dozen anvils ringed a central hearth where bellows still glowed orange. The iron-born smith Ferald Stonethumb had claimed it overnight, his apprentices quenching spearheads in casks of cool seawater. Ferald looked up. Lord Theon. He hefted a half-finished axe. Need more or if we're to rearm the lot? Lion stocks, mostly gilded host ornaments. Pretty but brittle. Weapons we can trust, Theon agreed. Have the men strip the harbor galleys. Melt anchors, chain links, nails. All iron's iron. Aye, Ferald hammered sparks. Also, he jerked his chin toward a stack of barrels stenciled with a snarling lion. Blessed rumor says Tywin's pet alchemists kept wildfire stores in lower catacombs. If we dig them out. No, Theon's reply cracked like a whip. Wildfire burns cities and conquerors alike. I've no wish to become a green candle. Ferald grunted, respect in his nod. Then iron it is. Theon left the forge, boots tracking soot across marble once polished to gilded sheen. As he ascended a servant's stair, a sudden rumble quivered through the stone beneath his soles. Another blast, deeper this time. Plaster dust rained. He whirled at the landing. Someone, slammed against the hidden panel of a wall 2 flights up. A slim crack of lamplight pierced the seam. Curious, Theon climbed, prying fingertips beneath a dislodged sconce. He heaved.
A narrow servant passage sum open.
Within, muffled sobs. He entered. A girl of perhaps 15 cowered over an elderly woman in crimson livery pinned beneath fallen timber. Blood seeped from the matron's temple. The girl looked up, startled. She recognized his mail, his kraken surcoat, and pressed both hands across her lips to trap a scream. Theon knelt, voice low. Easy. Are there more of you in the shafts? She shook her head frantically. Just us. They told us to hide. Her accent marked her a chambermaid from the Westerlands, vowels soft as fawn ears. He eyed the wounded woman, breath slow but steady. He shifted the timber, freeing her shoulder. Go downstairs. 3rd door on your right is the pantry. My steward ORM will give you bread and water. Tell him you serve the forge now. He'll set you to tasks. The girl's confusion warred with wariness. You won't hurt us? Theon thought of the doll girl he'd spared hours earlier. Women and children are worth more breathing than broken, he said. You'll be treated fair, so long as you cause no mischief. She nodded, tears shining. He guided her out. 2 ironborn guards took charge gently. Asha's voice thundered up the stairwell. Theon, to Rampart 4. He bolted toward daylight. When he reached the open parapet, a horn blast cut the morning sky, high and trilling. Asha pointed inland. Beyond the city walls, a dust plume crawled across sun-bright valleys. A host on the march. Red cloaks, she said. 500 at least. Some cavalry. Theon squinted. Spears glinted like a field of wheat under harvest sun. Lannister banners rippled, a roaring lion on crimson, accompanied by lesser sigils. The quill of House Payne, a gold-rimmed goblet of House Kenning, and the white crescent of Crakehall. Field lords rallying from nearby holdings. Jaime's men, he wondered aloud. Asha spat. Gold cloaks look like ants. Could be Ser Adam Marbrand, she guessed. Or the Kingslayer if he rode day and night. The dust cloud gained shape. Vanguards riding ahead, archers marching behind. They would reach the outer walls by noon. Position scorpions, he ordered. Line the cliff batteries with crossbows. If they attempt to scale, we drown them in pitch. Asha's gaze flicked to the sea. Better still, evac the inner bays. I'll swing the fleet around the cape. Rain bolts on their rear while they gawk at the rock. Harass, not engage, he warned. These aren't merchant cogs. They'll have siege towers if they're smart. Since when have Westermen been smart about water? She flashed teeth. Leave em to me. She descended to the docks while Theon summoned horns to rouse every able reaver. He walked the curtain wall, noting arrow slits, crenels, and murder holes now manned by rough islanders whose daylight eyes squinted against reflected sun. They laughed at danger like gulls at storm surf, but Theon felt each yard of parapet as a length of fragile rope above yawning sea. We are raiders, not wall watchers. The pretender Euron had once said that siege lines were cages for krakens. Yet Theon now commanded precisely such a cage. Stone instead of rope, but still a prison if relief did not come. Relief? From whom? Riverrun's Tullis despised Lannisters but might not welcome Greyjoys. Dragonstone lay in chaos. Rumors spoke of Stannis's death, of Lady Melisandre's fires. Winterfell was smoke and ruin. No allies marched to rescue a kraken perched upon a lion's skull. Thus he must forge new vows. He halted atop the highest barbican, where morning light set the gilded towers of Lannisport shimmering below. Ships still smoldered in the outer harbor. Black columns of smoke drifted over red-tiled roofs. Citizens peered from barricaded doors. Some fled inland with what possessions they could carry. Panic pulsed like blood. Behind Theon, bootsteps approached, light, measured. He turned to face Christopher Botley, once his boyhood companion in Pike's Tide pools, now captain of the Black Wind. Christopher's fair beard caught amber gleams. He carried a letter tube bound in purple thread. "Raven," Christopher said, holding the cylinder. It bore a white ribbon, hand of a king. Theon's pulse quickened. He cracked the seal. Inside, a single parchment, lines penned in an elegant yet forceful script. "Lord Theon Greyjoy, I write beneath the warrant of the hand of the king. His Grace Tommen Baratheon commands that you and all forces presently occupying Casterly Rock surrender the castle and its goods, pending parley and safe conduct. Surrender by sunset and retain your life and those of your men. Refuse and suffer the fate of traitors. Qyburn, Lord Regent and Hand of the King." Theon read twice, then handed it to Christopher. "The boldness," he murmured. "Tommen sits a boy on the Iron Throne, but the letter stinks of Cersei." Christopher tapped his chin. "Sunset's mercy, sounds more like time enough for their main host to arrive, or to buy breathing room for spies already within." He thought of the blasts of miners. He cursed softly. Christopher's gaze flicked to the marching host still drawing nearer. "How answer?" Theon crumpled the parchment, tossed it over the parapet to flutter like a dead gull onto rooftops below. "Steel," he said, "and salt." By noon, the Lannister vanguard reached the outer kill zone, a shallow valley of tumbleweed and dry grass. The rock's cliffs overshadowed them, sun glaring off white granite. Archers unstrung bows to rest. Footmen formed companies among banner poles. A horn boomed thrice. From the parapets, Theon watched as a single knight rode ahead beneath parley colors. White silk over crimson armor, helm crowned with a golden lion crest. He recognized Ser Adam Marbrand by reputation. A famed lancer, once intimate of Jaime. Marbrand reined in near the base of the cliff and shouted, "Hear me, Greyjoys. You sit the rock on borrowed breath. The lion's jaws are open, ready to snap shut. Yield, and the king's mercy shall spare the worst of you." Stone carried his words upward, but Theon heard only the distant echo. He beckoned Harl the spear, who fetched a war horn. Theon raised it, letting the conical bronze catch the sun, then blew a deep note that throbbed across the valley. Harl's archers loosed. Arrows hissed. Marbrand wheeled his destrier. 6 shafts bit the dirt about him. 2 lodged in the horse's barding. He galloped back amid jeers. Answer given. The Lannister host broke into ordered frenzy. Shield walls forming, engineers trundling siege scorpions, sappers driving stakes. They meant to encamp and starve the rock, perhaps coordinate with miners inside. Asha's fleet answered by appearing around the southern horn, black sails billowing against blue horizon. From each prow jutted a ballista of ironwood. They harassed Lannisport's fisher docks, loosing anchor ropes, burning warehouses. But they stayed clear of shore batteries now manned by crossbowmen under House Crakehall. Thus siege lines crystallized. Lions on the landward slope, krakens on the cliffs and sea. The rock, center of an ancient world, became a storm's eye. Night fell red with campfires. From the ramparts, one could count 1,000 pinpricks of amber across the valley floor. Lannister musicians blew horns at irregular intervals, answering iron-born drums. Mocking songs drifted back and forth, beneath the waves from the krakens, the rains of Castamere from the lions. In the Hall of Heroes, Theon convened his captains beneath the stone gaze of ancestral Lannisters. Dagmar arrived with his scalp bandaged. Asha leaned on her spear, cheeks streaked with soot. Christopher lugged a carafe of rough ale wine. Theon unrolled a rough map on Tywin's old council table, a top-down chalk etching of the rock's tunnels compiled hurriedly by memory and captured servants. Here, he tapped, the blast breach. Dagmar's men have anchored pitons and timbers, temporary. Here, a secondary shaft runs under the armory. If lions push, they might ignite powder kegs, drop the keep on our heads. Asha scowled. Can we collapse the tunnels ourselves? Not without killing half our garrison, Dagmar said, and losing the only freshwater cistern in that wing. Christopher set down his cup. Could flood them. Sea gates connect to lower mines. If we open Capstan 6 at high tide, salt water rushes every gallery below the forges. Dagmar's grin widened. Drown the moles.
A finest.
But we must time it, Theon warned, else drown our own. He drew a line across the sketch. High tide just past dawn. We open Capstan 6, then retreat to higher levels. Close again by low tide. Any lion survivors will be treading water or feeding crabs. Asha thumped the table. Done. They planned until torches guttered low. When at last the captains dispersed, Theon remained alone. He walked among the statues of dead kings, lions he now commanded by force rather than birth. He paused before the effigy of King Tytos, a gentle ruler mocked by his own bannermen. Softness, they said, was weakness. Tytos' stone eyes seemed sad even in candlelight. Was it weakness to show mercy? Theon asked the silent carving. He thought of the doll girl, the wounded matron, the chambermaid. Of himself at Winterfell, croner of children to scare northern peasants. A scraping step sounded behind him. He turned to find the young girl he had spared by the hearth earlier. She clutched the kraken coin he'd given, eyes huge. "Lord Greyjoy," she whispered, cheeks smudged with ash. "You said show this to any Ironborn." He knelt so their gazes met. "Has someone mistreated you?" She shook her head fiercely. "Your men gave me bread and a cot near the kitchens, but I heard whispers." "What whispers?" "Men in gold cloaks inside the tunnels. They meet in the old cat mint room, where they kept the lioness statues." She chewed her lip. "I used to hide there when Lady Cersei visited. The house guards don't know the secret latch, but I do." Theon's heart pounded. "How many?" "For maybe 5. They said, 'Tonight, open the Sally Gate by the Goat Gargoyle,' so the red cloaks could rush in." He absorbed this. He remembered the Goat Gargoyle, far end of the north wall, half crumbled. A narrow one-man door hidden behind it led onto a goat track switchback descending the cliff. Hard for an army, perfect for infiltrators. He gripped the girl's shoulders gently. "You did well." He fished a thin silver chain from his pouch, a token from Ned Stark's Winterfell, the direwolf charm he'd once prized. He unclasped it and hung it around her neck. "Wear this always. It means you are under my protection. Now go to the kitchens, stay with the women, and speak to no one else of what you heard." She curtsied awkwardly, eyes shining, then fled into shadowed halls. Theon straightened, adrenaline surging. If lions opened that gate, the siege would flip within minutes. He barked for Wex, for Harl. They gathered 20 silent killers, black cloth binding their helms. No torches. They moved through servants' crawlspaces guided by the girl's whispered directions and Theon's own mapping. The cat mint room lay 3 levels below the library, a forgotten vault lined with cracked granite. They found the latch hidden behind a frieze of cavorting goats. Harl loosened his dirk, breath tight. Inside, 5 Lannister scouts crouched around a half-shuttered lantern, poring over a scratched plan of the keep. One wore chain and a crimson cloak splotched with dust. 2 others were foresters with crossbows, the last pair miners coated in chalky sweat. Theon signaled. Ironborn spilled from the false wall like shadows. Knives flashed, cutting throats before screams could blossom. Blood spattered goat carvings. Within heartbeats, only one lion remained alive, the man in chain, pinned to the wall by Wex's mailed fist. He struggled, eyes wild. "You'll never hold this castle," he hissed. "Adam's knights will scale your cliffs by dawn." Theon pressed the point of his dagger beneath the man's chin. "What's dawn to men who drown in darkness tonight? How many others inside?" "Hundreds," the man spat, foamy. "Guards who'd strike for Lannister gold twice over any Kraken copper." "Name them." "Gorick, Halder, Ser Pate, the kennel's master. They bide the hour." "Where?" The lion clamped his teeth. Theon twirled his dagger, then slit the man's sleeve, revealing a crimson tattoo of a roaring lion on the forearm. Asha once told him such marks denoted Casterly Rock's Ghost Guard, a secret cadre for infiltration. He smiled cold. "They bleed ghost blood now," he murmured. "Bind him. Let him watch his schemes drown." Harl gagged and hog-tied the captive. They dragged bodies aside, cleaned prints from the false wall, then resealed the chamber. Theon posted 2 reavers there with crossbows and hurried to the Goat Gargoyle Sally Gate. They found its inner bolts half-sawed already. Asha's steel-jawed sailor coral hammered fresh wedges of oak, then soldered an iron plate across the seam. It would hold. The third dawn of occupation rose bloody again. High tide surged with unusual vigor, waves clawing at the base of the rock. Storm clouds massed out at sea, purple bruises beneath a livid sky. Theon and Dagmar stood before Capstan 6, a huge iron will chained to sluice gates deep beneath the forge. The old reaver cracked his knuckles. "Ready to drown some moles? Turn it." 6 burly smelters heaved. Links rattled. Rust groaned. Somewhere far below, cogs ground. Then a distant roar as seawater thundered along carved channels. The tunnel air dampened at once. Salt spray misted their faces. They withdrew to higher galleries, sealing iron gates behind. Minutes later, a faint boom resounded, then shouts echoing up the shaft. Lion miners hammered futilely on welded bars. Their torches hissed as water rushed their knees, then waists. Theon listened until the cries became gargled pleas. He felt no triumph, only cold inevitability. An hour later, mere silence rose from the depths. Capstan 6 spun closed. The drowned god had claimed fresh tithe. Storm clouds broke before noon, hurling spears of rain. Lightning forked above the harbor, illuminating Asha's fleet tacking just beyond catapult range. The rains turned cliff paths to slick mud, impeding Lannister siege engines. Their scorpions still loosed quarrels, but gusting winds deflected many into the sea. Atop a battlement, Theon rested, hood thrown back, letting rain wash soot from his brow. Dagmar joined, limping but upright. "They'll wait storm out," he said. "Then build mantlets, shield their miners, try again." Theon nodded. "Send phantoms tonight, trios with grapnels. Scale down cliffs, slip into their rear lines, cut horse hobbles, torch supply wagons." Dagmar's grin was red where teeth were gone. "I'll choose the boldest." Thunder cracked. Sea spray mingled with rain. Theon inhaled, tasting the tempest. He remembered childhood storms atop Pike, wind screaming through sky doors, his father's voice like thunder promising dominion over waves. Back then, everything seemed possible if only he proved worthy. Now, standing upon stolen stone, he found the cost of proof measured in drowned men and burning boats. A page dashed across slick stones. One of the Rock's proper stable boys, co-opted into Ironborn service. He carried a sodden parchment bearing Euron's cipher seal, a red eye ringed in black. Theon tore it open. "Dear little brother, word of your exploits washes ashore even here in Old Town's shadow. I commend your audacity, though it reeks of desperation. Casterly Rock is but a gilded bauble beside the fire that I nurture. Soon dragons will light the dusk sky, and the crows I shall ride the storm. When my fleet hoists black sails off Dragonstone, recall who truly commands the sea. Euron, king of salt and storm, god king of the isles, lord of the iron seat." Rain blurred the ink, but Euron's madness shone clear. Theon crushed the letter. Dagmar watched. "The crow-eye taunts? He breeds insanity like barnacles." He tossed the parchment into the wind. It plastered to a merlin before whipping away. He claims dragons, Dagmar snorted, and swine fly at dusk. Perhaps, Theon murmured. But swine sometimes sprout wings when men grow complacent. Lightning revealed the valley below, where Lannister siege works sprawled like a spiderweb glittering under dew. Night patrols trudged through mire, torches sputtering. The rock held, yet each hour tightened a noose not of rope but of attrition. Food stores dwindled faster than gold could fill bellies. Ironborn thrived on plunder, not farming. Asha returned at dusk, cloak-sodden. Rendezvoused with Blacktide scouts off Fair Isle, she reported. Marbrands sent riders north and east, summoning greater host. 3,000 foot, 800 horse. A fortnight, maybe less. Theon exhaled slowly. Numbers they could not withstand behind fractured walls. Asha, he said, voice low. We may need leverage beyond gold and fear. Her eyes narrowed. What leverage? Hostages. She grimaced. We've scoured half the keep. Most highborn fled to Lannisport days before our attack. Not all, he said, recalling the doll girl, the young maid, the nurse. If any Lannister blood, true blood, lurks in these halls, we must find them. Priscilla Lannister, Asha mused, rubbing her jaw. Tywin's newest grandniece. 9 summers. I glimpsed a nursemaid smuggling a child toward the sept the first night. The girl is worth 1,000 swords. Find her. Guard her safe. He laid a hand on his sister's shoulder. And gently, Asha. We can't afford trauma if we mean to trade. 3 days passed in storms and skirmishes. Ironborn specters infiltrated the lion camps nightly, torching siege ladders, slitting throats of sentries. In reply, Lannister bowmen picked off Kraken scouts who ventured too boldly. Goat tracks below the cliff soon sprouted sharpened stakes, each tipped with an ironborn head to glare back up at the rock. Still, the siege lines only thickened. Then, at dawn of the 7th day, silver horns blasted thrice from the valley. The ironborn manning the east tower shouted alarm. A new banner approached, the flayed man of House Bolton on a field of pink and red. The sight twisted Theon's guts cold. Ramsay. He gripped Crenel's stone until knuckles blanched, memories of blades and kennels flooding. Asha glimpsed his face and cursed. Flayers siding with lions? Bolton sells word Heart's Way only silver, he rasped. Jaime must have bargained them. Ramsay's riders, 300 lean light horse, trotted across the Lannister camp, jeers echoing. Their lord rode at the fore, pale eyes gleaming, bastard sigil stitched in black thread across his doublet. He doffed his helm and bowed extravagantly toward the rock, as though greeting an old flame. Theon's knees went weak, not with fear but rage. Dagmar steadied him. It's just a man, the old raider murmured. Steel kills all. Theon forced a breath. He raised his war horn high, but no sound emerged. Ramsay's voice carried up hollow. Reek, oh sweet Reek, how brave you stand, playing Lord of Lions. Come down and play again. We'll flay this rock together. Ironborn spat curses. Some demanded arrows, but Ramsay already withdrew under crimson shields. Theon found his voice. Hold your shafts, he commanded. Killing him is mercy. He deserves dread. Dagmar's gaze softened. You owe him, but wrath must wait until victory. Victory, Theon echoed, tasting the brittle word. That night, while winds keened, Ramsay's men dragged a dozen screaming captives to the moat trench. Fisherfolk from Lannisport, bound naked. Torches sprouted along the siege line, illuminating flensing knives. Flayed skins hung steaming by sunrise, a grim warning. We can torment, too. Theon's reavers snarled for blood. Asha herself paced like a caged lynx, but Theon kept them leashed. Rash sallies would doom them. Instead, he turned to cunning. He summoned Christopher, Wex, and Gerold to the Forge Hall. Upon Tywin's Oldenville, he unfurled a bold plan. A midnight sortie by sea, slipping 2 longships under the noses of Bolton horse to torch their grain wagons, then capture Ramsay if fortune favored. It involved tides, fog, and secret channels only recently sounded. Wex's eyes burned with purpose. Christopher clapped forearm to forearm. Gerold chuckled, hefting his butcher axe. "Let's make the bastard squeal." They prepared silently. Blackened mail or mufflers, pitch-soaked torches sealed in wax. At the ebb of second moonrise, the boats slipped from the cavern mouth beneath Casterly's sea gates, hugging cliff shadows until valley fog swallowed them. Theon stood in the prow, salt spray peppering his face. Each stroke of the oars whispered across water. Lightning flickered distant. Thunder rolled like the forge of gods. Ahead, lantern clusters marked the Bolton camp at the valley's eastern fringe. Wagons lined in neat rows carried grain stolen from the Westerland's harvest. Wardens dozed by watch fires, trusting the lion pickets to their west. The longships beached upon reeds. The Ironborn filed off, blades wrapped in cloth. They moved like wraiths, passing between sleeping horses, slitting sentry throats. Wex and 3 others circled wide to cut every picket line they found. Soon half-tamed destriers would spook at the first spark, trampling their own tents. Theon located the largest pavilion, a red silk structure emblazoned with a flayed man. He crouched behind a supply cart stacked with salted pork and lamp oil. Inside, faint snores. He signaled. Christopher and Gerold crept up. They knifed the tent's rear, slipping within. Muffled grunts, a thud. Seconds later, they emerged hauling Ramsay Bolton himself, hood thrown over his head, wrists bound. His bare chest bled from a shallow puncture. Christopher's reminder to stay silent. Theon's breath stilled. But now came the risk. Escape unnoticed. They dragged Ramsay toward the reeds, but a stable boy stumbled upon them, loosing a screech before Gerold hacked him down. Alarm horns blared. Flames blossomed as Asha's rear detail set torches to wagons. Chaos erupted. Bolton men boiled from tents. Horses screamed as cut hobbles loosed them into fires. Theon's raiders sprinted through choking smoke, hauling their prisoner. Arrows hissed. 2 struck an Ironborn in the back. He stumbled, urged them onward, then collapsed in reeds. The boats shoved off as Bolton crossbows peppered the shoreline. Oars churned black water. Asha's coastal ballistas, lying in waiting, launched quarrels that raked the confused pursuit. Within heartbeats, they vanished into fog. Hours later, Ramsay Bolton knelt hooded in Casterly Rock's dungeon, wrists manacled in cold iron. Theon stood before him, torch casting grotesque shadows. He removed the hood. Ramsay blinked at the chained torchlight, then grinned, madness, delight, venom all in one.
"Well met, Rake."
"I am Theon. You are mine," Ramsay purred. "Always." Theon struck him across the face, ring-cutting skin. Ramsay laughed, blood on teeth. Dagmar watched from the arch, expression unreadable. "Give me one reason not to slit you ear to ear," Theon hissed. "Because my father holds all the north that matters," Ramsay said, chuckling. "He'll trade 10 krakens for 1 bastard, and the lions will pay thrice. You overestimate your worth." "Do I?" "Ask yourself how long you can feed your reavers. Every day you squat here, another army gathers. Baratheon, Highgarden, maybe even the dragon bitch across the sea. You think a flayed boy matters in that storm? You need ransom, reek. I am gold red, sticky gold." Despite himself, Theon felt the chill of truth. A hostage this vile could indeed buy breathing room, or turn half the realm against the Krakens should Ramsay scream of Greyjoy cruelty. "I will think on your price," he said finally. He nodded to Dagmar, who gagged Ramsay and dragged him to a cell carved directly into granite. No window, no warmth. As the door slammed, Ramsay's muffled laughter lingered like swamp gas. Next dawn, Lannister horns sounded plaintive. Across the valley, a white banner rose atop a makeshift flagpole. Theon's lookouts reported a party of knights approaching under truce. Adam Marbrand led them, but beside him rode a robed maester and 2 Boltons. One held aloft a scrap of blood-soaked linen, flayed skin shaped like a spiraling shell. Theon descended to the cliff gatehouse. He peered through arrow slits as Marbrand called, "Greyjoy, you may hold the rock, but you have taken one not yours. We demand Lord Ramsay's safe return, or we will hang your drowned men piece by piece." Theon's chuckle was mirthless. He gave orders to raise a cage, an old Lannister contraption once used to display poachers. Within the hour, Ramsay Bolton dangled above the cliff, naked save iron shackles, gag removed but voice lost in wind. His pale body bled where rope chafed. Theon shouted down, "Come for him if you dare. We have water to share." Then he signaled. A bucket of brine was hoisted, overturned upon Ramsay. Salt rivulets streaked his bleeding skin. He screamed, voice shredded. Marbrand's host recoiled. Theon saw rage ignite, but also uncertainty. It is hard to ransom a man already half dead. He lowered the cage after sunset, locking Ramsay away lest he die too fast. That night, ravens flew north and south. To Roose Bolton at the Dreadfort, offering his bastard's life in exchange for 10,000 bushels of grain. To King's Landing, offering the bastard of Bolton in trade for the safe withdrawal of all Lannister forces and full recognition of Ironborn rule over the western coast. No answers came by dawn, nor by the next day. Instead, Bolton flayers renewed their atrocities on peasantry to shame the Kraken into release. In retaliation, Theon flayed a captured lion captain and sent his skin back by arrow. The siege spiraled into grisly game, and still supplies dwindled. Casterly Rock storerooms brimmed with riches, gold, silver, spices, but little grain after years of war. Within a fortnight, Theon rationed bread to half loaves. Fish from harbor traps supplemented meals, but saltwater sickness spread. Asha's fleet staged nightly raids, capturing merchant cogs bound for Old Town, but each victory fed only a day or two. On the 11th day, the wind shifted south, carrying black sails to the horizon. From the South Tower, Theon watched new ships appear, longships with blood-red sails stitched with a bleeding eye.
Euron.
Theon's chest tightened. Croweye had come not for rescue but for claim. Behind his flagship Silence stretched a dozen more, hulks rumored crewed by mute thralls. Dagmar stood quietly beside Theon. "Brother against brother," the old raider muttered. "I'll fate." Theon clenched the rampart, bookended by Lannister host on land and Euron's nightmare at sea. The Kraken hold seemed poised to implode, but Asha joined them, spyglass against storm eye. She smiled a sharp smile. "Euron sails under parley flag. He means to talk." "Talk or taunt," Theon said, voice hollow. "Let him speak," Dagmar advised. "Perhaps he comes with tidings of dragons, or keys to gates we cannot see." Theon nodded. Within hours, a single skiff rode beneath the cliff. A lone figure ascended goat track steps, flanked by two of Theon's guards. Tall, lean, black cloak whipping. Euron Greyjoy wore a patch over his left eye, the other blue as winter seas, shining with relish. He entered the breached hall, spreading arms. "Little brother," he cried, "what a fortress you've stolen, though I hear its larder's echo." Theon met him at sword point. "State your purpose, Croweye." Euron laughed, unperturbed. "I bring gift and bargain. Brotherhood." He gestured grandly. "Join my fleet. Quit this lion's den before it collapses. We sail for Old Town. There the High Tower hides Valyrian secrets. Dragons, yes, eggs perhaps, and arcane fire. With it, we conquer Westeros entire." "Abandon the rock?" Theon's voice cracked. He had bled for this stone, drowned men to seize it. "Gold is dust and wind," Euron said softly. "Power is breath. Come, Theon, leave this cage. Sail beside me. I will name you king of Lannisport's ashes once dragons scour it." Asha sneered. "And what place for me in your dream?"
Eurones green videnet.
"Sister, ride any dragon you like, so long as you kneel first." Dagmar's grip tightened on his axe. Theon swallowed. "Give me time to answer." "Till dawn," Euron said. He pivoted toward the exit, caressing a fallen lion banner as he passed. "As dawn breaks, you either sail with me, or I silence all within these walls. I would frown to see kin drowned, but the sea does not weep." When he'd gone, thunder shook the keep. Theon slumped against the cracked marble. Around him Asha, Dagmar, Christopher gazed with unmasked dread. What choice? Christopher murmured. If Euron assaults, we fight on two fronts. He'll batter the sea gate. Lannisters will storm the landward slopes. We hold, Asha hissed. Or die, Dagmar frowned. Or we parley with Marbrand, trade Ramsay, trade the rock for safe retreat. Sail before the crow and the lion devour us. Theon's thoughts churned. He pictured Pike's towers in winter gales, Ned Stark's calm eyes, Robb's trust. He thought of the doll girl's quiet bravery, of Kevin Lannister's dying gaze. There is a third path, he whispered. Asha raised an eyebrow.
I'm listening.
We give the rock not to lion nor kraken, but to wolves. Silence followed. Dagmar blinked. You mean Stark ghosts? Jon Snow marches south with wildling hosts. If rumors true, the North hates Boltons, hates Lannisters. If we send Raven, offer him Casterly Rock's gold, a foothold in the west, he may march sooner. And Snow is no friend to Euron. Christopher scratched his beard. Siding with a crow-kissed Stark? Strange bedfellows. Better than Euron's nightmares, Asha conceded. But ravens may not reach him in time, Dagmar warned.
Eurones don ultimatum stens.
Theon closed his eyes, sensing a tide turning inside him. He addressed his captains. Here is what we do. Tonight, we stage feast at Western Curtain Tower. Invite Euron ashore with his lieutenants for wine and whores. We lure him into the banquet hall, then seal the exits. Ignite the cache of Lannister wildfire I swore never to use. Asha's eyes widened. You located the jars? I did, he said quietly. Ferald's men uncovered them yesterday. Dagmar exhaled, awe tinged with fear. A blast fit for gods. We sacrifice part of the outer wall, burying Euron and his captains. In chaos, our fleet under Asha slips east, hugging coast to evade Lannister ballistae, then sails north to rendezvous off Fair Isle. Inside the rock, we prepare sappers to crumple the cliff face once wildfire roars, dropping half the keep into the surf, sealing the sea gate Euron coveted. And lions? Marbrand will see the explosion from his camp. He'll believe Euron's black sails launched the attack, for Wildfire's green flame is known to King's Landing. Confusion will stall his assault. Meanwhile, we send ravens to Jon Snow, to Riverrun, to anyone who will clip lion claws. Asha nodded slowly. It could work, or kill us all. Theon met her gaze. We wager our lives either way. Better in our hands than Euron's. Dagmar clapped Theon's shoulder, pride burning through his one good eye. Lead on, boy. That evening, invitations sailed on perfumed parchment to Euron's flagship. Black sails accepted. Just after moonrise, small boats ferried the Crow-Eye and 20 of his captains up the cliff elevator the Lannisters had once used for gold ore. They entered the western banquet hall. A long chamber hung with red drapes, lion tapestries replaced by kraken sigils, tables groaning with spiced fowl, roast boar, casks of arbor wine. Theon greeted Euron with open arms, masking revulsion. He toasted brotherhood of blood and salt, while Asha played coy, pouring goblets. Dagmar manned the doors, stationing reavers at corridor junctures, innocent as servants. Beneath the hall's marble floor, wildfire jars nested inside braziers rigged to coal furnaces. Ferald Stone Thumb watched the fuses. Long ropes of hemp soaked in pitch, run through mouse holes toward a central keg beneath the high table where Euron now lounged. The feast roared. Euron recounted tales of Karth enchantresses, of warlocks enslaved to his whim. His captains cheered, drained cups. Theon laughed along, each heartbeat a drum. At the appointed hour, trumpets outside heralded a gift. Theon's smiths wheeled in a towering iron cage draped in sailcloth. They set it beside Euron. Theon unveiled it. Inside knelt Ramsay Bolton, bound, gagged, eyes blazing. Euron clapped in delight. A pink present. What a host you are. He leaned close to Ramsay. Do you fear the dark, bastard? Ramsay's muffled laughter answered. So engrossed were they that few noticed Theon step back, nodding to Asha. She withdrew, feigning to fetch fresh wine. Dagmar quietly barred the outer doors. Ferald lit the first fuse. Above, music swelled. Ironborn dancers spun. Flames crawled, invisible, along hidden tunnels. Theon approached Euron one last time. "Brother, to new worlds," he toasted, raising a goblet.
Euron grinned.
"To chaos." Their cups clinked. Theon drank deep, wine sweet as triumph, bitter as betrayal. Then he turned, lips brushing Euron's ear. "Chaos is a wave, but stone sinks all."
Eurones bro quirked.
But before he could speak, a tremor rippled the marble. Green light glimmered between floor tiles. Euron glanced down. Ferald's fuses met the central keg. The world ignited. A pillar of emerald fire burst through the high table, vaporizing meat and timber. Flame licked ceiling beams. Glass-stained windows exploded outward. Shockwave hurled bodies like toys. Theon had already dived behind a stone pillar as molten debris seared overhead. Euron's scream, part rage, part glee, echoed before it was swallowed in thunder. The banquet hall roof tore free, tumbling into the surf 600 feet below. Wildfire cascaded in glowing sheets, atomizing flesh, turning stone to brittle glass. Outside, Lannister sentries saw the night blossom green. Marbrand shouted orders, thinking Dragonfire. His lines braced, confusion fracturing discipline. Within the rock, Asha's crews triggered preset charges. Sections of the cliff face, undermined for days, sheared away with a low moan. Tons of granite plunged into the frothing sea, burying the collapsed banquet hall and the Crow Eyes' remains. Simultaneously, Asha's fleet, having boarded chosen longships earlier, slipped east through new-formed channels, sails reefed to silent sheets. They rounded the promontory just as Lannister scorpions pivoted, too slow. Theon, bruised and half-deaf, staggered from dust clouds into a side corridor where Dagmar and a half-dozen reavers coughed blood and soot. The blast had cracked walls, but the inner keep stood. He peered through war-torn arches. Where the banquet hall once sprawled yawned a jagged gulf, edges glowing. Distant waves hissed, devouring wildfire-lit rubble. Of Euron, no sign. Theon straightened, pressed a hand to bleeding temple. He looked to Dagmar. "It's done." Dagmar managed a grim smile. "Crow-Eye gone to drown." Theon nodded. "Now we face only lions." He limped toward the northern stairs. Captains rallied, word spreading that the Crow-Eye had died by Kraken hands. Fear flickered behind some eyes. Fear of Theon, now Kinslayer, wielder of wildfire. But also awe. They reached the highest parapet. Storm clouds had fled, leaving cold stars. Below, Lannister camp lay in uproar, officers scrambling to decipher the chaos. Beyond, the sea reflected eerie green shards still flickering at the base of the rock. Theon raised his sword to the night. "Let every banner see!" he cried, voice ragged. "Euron Greyjoy is ashes. The Kraken stands unchained by madness. Bring your hosts, lions, flayers, crows. The sea remembers, and the sea does not yield." Ironborn roared back, shields drumming stone. And in the stillness that followed, ravens winged into darkness, bearing word of wildfire and betrayal toward the Frostfangs, toward Dragonstone's smoke-wreathed cliffs, toward Riverrun's whispering willows. The tide had turned again, yet no man could say to what shore. But Theon Greyjoy, scarred, shaken, unbowed, stood at the cliff's edge, salt wind whipping hair across his eyes, and felt, for the first time since Winterfell's snows, the strange flicker of something almost like hope. Rain clouds clung to dawn like bruises on a battered sky, seeping chill mist through every shattered arch of Casterly rock. Stones still glowed faintly where wildfire's kiss had turned them to half-melted glass. Smoke drifted up in idle ribbons, catching on the wind and curling away into the western sea. Theon Greyjoy felt each breath rasp his throat raw, tasting wood ash, salt, and blood in equal parts. He leaned against a cracked lion pillar and forced himself upright, joints aching as though his bones had been hammered on Ferald's anvil. A wet hush hung over the keep, broken only by distant gull cries and the low boom of crashing surf far below the ruined banquet hall. He heard no drums, no horns, For one fleeting beat, the world seemed to wait, poised between tides, between heartbeats, between last night's fury and the next thunderbolt. He made his way along a half-collapsed corridor where once fine mosaics had gleamed, now a jagged throat of stone and black-green slag. Boot soles crunched glass, every footfall flaring pain across his bruised ribs. He ignored it. At an archway blown open to the morning, he paused, staring down sheer cliffs of fresh-cleaved granite. The banquet hall, the sea gate, Euron Greyjoy, all crushed beneath glimmering boulders that still steamed where green fire had scorched them in the night. White plumes of surf hissed across the debris, foaming in pitted scars like giants' footprints. Seawater had poured into the new fracture line, drowning the last flickers of wildfire. Yet pale green wisps still fizzed whenever the tide receded. Down there lay his brother's charred myths, mangled corpses of mute thralls, shards of golden goblets, and enough ruin to haunt minstrels for a century. A step sounded behind him, light, measured, but uneven. He turned, blade rising half out of its scabbard before his weary mind recognized the sway of Asha's gait. Her left pauldron was gone, leather sliced away to reveal puckered flesh where heat had blistered her shoulder. She carried a broken spear haft for a crutch and a wineskin sloshing sour arbor red. Sunlight thin, weak, caught in her dark hair, making each unburnt strand glimmer like wet obsidian. Counting ghosts, her voice forced brightness through exhaustion. Better not, we'd run out of numbers. He slid the sword back.
Euron.
Gone. Whatever bits remain are buried beneath 10 fathoms of rock. We found a finger, rings melted to bone, but Dagmar says it might have been anyone's. Folk prefer believing it was the crow eye, so let them. She shrugged and hissed as the raw skin pulled. You look worse than me. We both still breathe. He accepted the wineskin, letting bitter warmth burn down his throat. It steadied him enough to study the horizon. Black sails were gone, replaced by gray smudges crawling toward the west. Asha's longships making their escape along the rocky coast. Smoke from a dozen torched Lannister scorpions still rose on the valley floor where night raids had harried the siege lines. Yet red and gold banners still dotted the camps. Fewer, perhaps, but enough to muster thousands. Adam Marbrand's host had survived. They've pulled back 2 furlongs, Asha noted, following his gaze. Fear of more green fire, mayhap, but they'll tighten again once courage creeps back. They'll tighten faster when they learn Euron's dead. He drew a deep breath, iron tang cutting his lungs. Ramsay, in the undercells. Farrell chained him to a pillar, good steel, thick links. You should wash before facing that one again. He smells weakness like sharks scent blood. Theon managed a thin smile. Let him smell. We've bled plenty. Nothing left to lose now. Asha's brow furrowed. That's where you're wrong. We've coin, cannons, and still some teeth. But the bite must be aimed. She jabbed the splintered spear haft toward the valley. Marbrand will strike before week's end, Euron or no. Bolton riders lurk in the hills. And food. 2 weeks of barley, dried fish, half-spoiled fruit. He'd memorized every tally. Less, if rain spoils the grain bins again. Then we speak with the wolf. She tilted her head. He'll need time to reach us, but hold another fortnight and maybe the north comes howling. Theon pictured Jon Snow. Black cloak, grim eyes. Half a ghost of Ned Stark returned to judge him. Would the bastard-turned king trust a kraken? Trust Theon after Winterfell? Even if he did, could Jon break through the Riverlands in time? A horn cried across the ruined court. 3 short blasts. Summons. Wex Pike appeared, breath misting in the cool air. Marbrand approaches, he panted. Parley flag. Theon and Asha exchanged looks. Let's greet him, she said, setting off with brisk purpose. Theon followed, hiding the limp that tried to claim his left leg. They reached the half-shattered barbican above the goat track sallyport. Lannister heralds rode forward through churned mud, holding aloft white silk. Ser Adam Marbrand himself came behind, burnished breastplate reflecting watery sun, his auburn hair tied back. Beside him rode two figures, a maester in gray, and, unexpected, a tall woman in battered mail, her cloak embroidered with a white fish on red. "Lady Jenna Lannister," Asha murmured. Theon recalled Kevin's sister, famous for a tongue sharper than most men's swords. The years had silvered her hair and deepened the lines around her mouth, but her back was straight and her gaze fierce. Marbrand reined in within bowshot. Voice clear as cathedral bells, he called, "Greyjoys of Casterly Rock, we would speak. Will you meet us at the Broken Court under bond of guest right?" Asha stepped to the crenel. "Under the same guest right you gave our scouts 2 nights past? I count 3 heads spiking your stakes." "They were not guests," Jenna's voice answered, crisp. "They were thieves in our baggage trains, caught with torch and steel." Theon kept silent, weighing the moment. Parley lines were risky, but refusal might stiffen the lions. Ramsay's life had value only if someone sat to bargain for it. He called down, "Come at midday, unarmed save your maester's parchments. 3 from your side, 3 from ours. We'll meet in the shattered gallery." He gestured at the ruined upper walkway visible across the courtyard, open to arrow slits. Marbrand nodded. "Midday, then." He wheeled away, Lannister trumpets blaring a brief salute. When they'd retreated, Theon exhaled long. Asha glanced at him sideways. "You mean to show them Ramsay?" "Not yet. Let them smell bait before they see it." He pinched the bridge of his nose. "My worry is Lady Jenna. She may hold more sway than any knight. Tywin's sister, fierce as a manticore. If she thinks us suitors begging for truce, she'll toss us to the wind." "Then don't beg," Asha said simply. "Show teeth." Midday brought thin sunlight slanting through gaps in broken roof beams of the shattered gallery. It had once been a fine promenade lined with marble balustrades and stained glass lions. Now fractures spider-webbed the floor, and one entire wall lay missing, open to the dizzying drop above the bay. Wind carried spray, flicking cool mist onto scorched stone. Dagmar stood guard at the far end with 4 crossbowmen. Wex Pike remained hidden in an alcove with 2 archers. Theon would not risk another ambush. He, Asha, and Christopher Botley waited beside cracked pillars. All wore mail but left swords sheathed. Guest right demanded some trust. On the stroke of midsun, the Lannister party arrived. Ser Adam, Lady Jenna, and the Maester. An aging man stooped under scrolls. They bore no shields, only a single white banner. Formality died quickly amid the ruins. Jenna assessed the devastation with a contemptuous sniff. Typical Ironborn redecorating. "I imagine the reek of rot carries to Old Town by now." Asha smiled coldly. "Rot reminds folk the sea comes for all flesh, my lady. Even lion flesh." Ser Adam inclined his head, diplomatic. "My lady speaks harshly, but grief cuts keen. Your wildfire cost many lives." "Ask Euron," Theon answered. "Though you'll need a long line hook to fish him up." Marbrand's eyes flickered, glad confirmation, perhaps. "Then the Crow-Eye truly is dead? Stone and tide keep his bones," Theon said. "No man mourns him here." Jenna folded her arms. "My niece still lives, little Elsabeth. She hid during your coup. Return her unharmed, and I will see you sail away with your hides intact, your holds full of grain, your heads spared from spikes." Theon kept his face calm. "We do not hold any Elsabeth Lannister. If we find her, she'll eat better than I do. But bargaining children sets a poor tone." He stepped forward. "Instead, let us speak of lords." A gesture. Dagmar hauled Ramsay forth, manacles clanking. Fresh welts crisscrossed his bare chest. Salt water still glistened in his hair from the cage dunking. Yet his eyes burned with undimmed malice, teeth bared in a wolfish grin. Marbrand's jaw tensed, Jenna's brows arched, more intrigued than horrified. "This creature," Theon announced, "raped and murdered across the north. He sacked Winterfell, flayed the Ironborn left there, slaughtered Starks and small folk alike. But he is heir to the Dreadfort, and Lord Roose Bolton rides for him. Bolton's steel will not stop with my men. It will carve a path through your fields if need be." Jenna regarded Ramsay with a distant chill. So you propose what? That we ransom him. Pay you coin. Not coin. Grain. 10,000 bushels. And safe passage for my sister's fleet to resupply in Case or Fair Isle. In return, we hand Ramsay over to you, alive but gagged. Marbrand exchanged a quick look with the maester, who whispered into his ear. Jenna frowned thoughtfully. Why would we take on the Bolton debt? Because Roose Bolton is bannerman to House Lannister through marriage to Valda Frey, Theon countered. Roose's loyalty rests on his son's life. If you hold that life, you hold Bolton blades. He pointed toward the valley. Better to command those swords than to face them beside your enemy lines. Marbrand paced a step, considering. Jenna's gaze remained locked on Theon. You play a dangerous game, Kraken. If we refuse, Theon spread his hands, scars catching the light. Then I toss him over the cliff and mail his flayed face to Dreadfort. Roose will blame the Lion's siege. His vengeance will turn west. Choose. Silence hummed. Asha leaned on her good shoulder, watching. Christopher's hand hovered near dagger but at rest. Finally, Lady Jenna turned away to view the sea, as if consulting unseen advisors in the deep. When she spoke, her voice was steel wrapped in velvet. Food we can offer, 7,000 bushels, not 10, and 3 wagons of salted beef. Safe harbor at Case, no further than a fortnight. But the bastard comes to us alive and whole. No more flaying. And you vacate the rock within 48 hours. Asha's scoff echoed. This rock cost iron blood, and gold flows in its guts. Jenna wheeled. Gold buys nothing when every lord in the west rides to crush you. Baratheon supply trains march from King's Landing as we speak. Tarly of the Reach gears for war. Hold the rock another moon and you'll starve amid treasure. My terms are mercy. Wind keened through the jagged wall. Theon felt sweat bead despite the chill. They could not win a protracted siege. Not with Euron gone, not with grain low. Yet surrender stank of failure, of losing Robb's memory, of abandoning the Kraken banner he'd just raised. He thought then of Jon Snow again, wolf eyes in a blizzard. A distant gamble, but perhaps the only way to keep both pride and breath. He spoke slowly. I will answer at sunset. Meanwhile, cease artillery. Pull your scorpions beyond my bowshot. Show good faith, and we may feast together tonight. Marbrand's expression remained guarded, but he nodded. Jenna gave a curt dip of her chin. They withdrew. Ramsay was dragged back below. After they'd gone, Asha forced out a breath. 48 hours. We need more. Theon gazed east. Clouds parted to reveal a hint of clear blue, a rare gift, or different teeth. He turned to Christopher. Ready swift ravens. For birds, strongest wings. Messages to Jon Snow at Moat Cailin, to Edmure Tully at Riverrun, to Tarly in Old Town, and one to Dorne's prince, in case snakes hate lions still. Christopher blinked at the breadth, but saluted and hurried off. Asha narrowed her eyes. You'd invite vipers as well as wolves? Anyone who'll bleed the lion faster than we can. He rubbed tired eyes. But ravens fly, word spread. Perhaps something cracks open before we haul anchor. She studied him. You'd truly abandon the rock after all this? No, he said, surprising himself with the certainty. We'll leave the shell, aye, but take its heart. What wealth remains we melt into bars, load onto Asha's keels. Leave hollow tunnels for the lions to gloat over. Let them find only ghosts and poison wells. She grinned despite pain. Ghosts I can arrange. They worked through afternoon glare. Sun now bold after days of storm. Ferrelled smith's melted plate and chalice alike, pouring molten gold into iron-bound molds shaped for stacking. Dust-coated thralls lugged small ingots to wagons bound for the sea caves. Meanwhile, Wex oversaw sappers flooding lower galleries again, this time with seawater laced with dung heaps and butcher offal. Breeding plague should Lannisters rush in too soon. At sunset, scarlet light washed the rock, turning every wound crimson. Theon limped to the parapet where arrow slits framed the valley. Marbrand's scorpions now stood further away, as agreed, but firelight flickered where siege towers were being repaired, not dismantled. Trust remained thin on both sides. Behind him, soft footfalls, lighter than Asha's, quicker than Wex's. He rotated, hand brushing hilt. The doll girl stepped from shadow, her face half lit by a torch in the corridor. She wore his direwolf charm outside her tunic now, proudly. "I found her," she whispered, eyes huge. "Lady Elsabeth. She's hiding in the rookery tower, with 3 maids and a septon." Adrenaline surged. "You're certain?" The girl nodded hard. "I saw the lion brooch. They keep quiet all day and feed on pigeon pies." Theon knelt, heart thudding. "You've done a great thing," he thought quickly. Elsabeth, Tywin's grandniece, a true Lannister. With her in hand, Jenna's leverage and mercy might double. But harming a child? His stomach twisted. He took a breath. "Bring them to me," he told the girl softly. "In secret.
No blades drone.
Promise they are safe." Her shoulders eased. She trusted him. Within an hour, torchbearers led 4 meek hostages into the shattered solar where Theon waited. Elsabeth Lannister was perhaps 12, with hair like tarnished gold and eyes rimmed red from weeping. She clutched a ragged stuffed lion. The maids trembled, but the Septon straightened, cheeks flushed with indignation. "I am Septon Alador," he announced. "I protest this indignity." Theon raised a hand. "Peace. You're safe. No harm will touch her. By my vow before sea and 7 gods." He knelt to Elsabeth's level. "You remember your cousin Tywin?" She nodded, lip quivering.
I fågt men Tywin trained.
"He would want you brave. I need only your presence to end more death. Will you help, little lioness?" She studied him, perhaps noticing the notched ears, the recent bruises, the sincerity he hoped glimmered past them. Finally she whispered, "If it stops screaming at night, it will." He rose, turning to Wex. "Prepare rooms in the East Tower, windows, warm blankets, guards who keep their tongues civil. Tell Asha this changes the bargain." Night cloaked the valley as Theon and Asha descended to the undercells one last time. They found Ramsay chained, but awake, humming through blood-caked lips. When the torchlight reached him, he smiled around broken teeth. "Little Theon returns. Have you brought my horse?" He craned his neck mockingly. "Or a pretty girl to carve?" Theon crouched just beyond reach. "No horses or girls. News. You're leaving at dawn, alive." Ramsay's expression twitched, a flicker of something like disappointment. "Living is dull. Not where you're going." Theon leaned closer, voice low. "You'll ride south under Lannister colors, gagged, bound, displayed like a prize boar. Every mile marker will remind you the North is done with your filth. You'll be a pawn until you rot, but you'll never touch another skin." Ramsay's laughter rasped. "You think ropes stop me? I'll cut free. I'll find you."
Toen slept o sikpairchment utai promso jeshlop.
"Your confession, all your deeds signed with your blood. We forced nothing, you bragged of every crime. It goes south with you. At court, a single whisper from you and the paper sings." For the first time Ramsay's bravado flickered. His tongue darted across cracked lips. "You couldn't have written. You talked plenty while the salt burned." Asha's smile held nothing but cold iron. "You bragged of Hornwood, of Lady Donella, of the miller's wife. Every word is there." Ramsay's eyes narrowed, horror creeping like frost. Theon stood. "Sleep, bastard. Tomorrow you start repaying the dead." They left him to shadows and silence. Dawn burst in rose and gold, washing masonry clean. Parley resumed in the shattered gallery. This time Theon arrived flanked by Asha and the doll girl, whom he now introduced as Tessa Pike, his ward and witness. Jenna, Marbrand, and their maester faced them.
Theon wastid nobreth.
He produced Ramsay alive. Then, with gentle ceremony, ushered Elsabeth Lannister forward, her stuffed lion clutched tight. Gasps fluttered among the lions. Jenna's eyes filled with tears before she masked them with steel. "You asked for your kin," Theon said quietly. "Here she is, unharmed, fed, and warm." Jenna knelt, gathering the girl. Elsabeth sobbed once, relief bursting. Theon continued, "My new terms, provisions as before, but we hold Casterly Rock for 7 days more. Time to load our ships and bury our dead. You withdraw siege lines half a league, give us clear coast to set sail. In return, Elsabeth goes with you now, Ramsay at departure. If you attack us before 7 days, we toss the bastard off the cliff. If we do not depart by dusk on the 7th day, you may storm as you wish. Elsabeth remains your charge." Marbrand and the maester conferred. Jenna rose, tears dried, voice firm. "Done." Asha breathed out slowly. Theon inclined his head. Guardians escorted Elsabeth away. Jenna lingered, gaze heavier now. "You're not like the Crow Eye," she said to Theon alone. "Nor like your father." He met her eyes. "I'm not sure what I am," he admitted. "But I'm done with cages, stone or salt." She studied him, then nodded once, turning to go. Marbrand saluted. The parley ended. 7 days passed, weighty as 7 years. Lion banners kept their distance. Bolton flares eyed from ridges, but dared no rush. Ravens flew, 2 lost to hawks, but 1 reached the twins, 1 the neck. Scouts whispered that banners of the direwolf stirred near Moat Cailin. Theon clung to the rumor like driftwood. Within the rock, fever took some wounded. Others healed. Gold ingots amassed under tarps in sea caves. Barrels of grain from the lions rolled across courtyards like fattened boars. Feral smiths forged new anchors. Sappers rigged final charges to cripple the surviving inner gate once Ironborn marched out. On the final dawn, thick fog cloaked sea and shore alike. An omen Theon welcomed. Asha's fleet hugged the new carved channel, sails furled, oars muffled. Ironborn warriors filed from broken gates in disciplined ranks, bearing crates and coffers. No horns, no cheers. Only the hush of emigrants leaving a haunted homeland. Theon, Dagmar, Christopher escorted the last column. A wagon holding Ramsay Bolton, bound to a stout chair, mouth gagged with salted hide. Lannister knights waited at treaty line, flanked by Lady Jenna. She counted coffers, weighed silence, then raised a hand. "Safe wins, Kraken." Theon nodded once, unchained Ramsay's prison wagon to their custody. He pressed the confession scroll into Marbrand's gauntlet. "Read it well." Then he turned away without another word, limping down the goat track one final time. At the base, waves lapped gentle as lullabies. Boats ferried men to the flagship Black Wind, where Asha already barked commands. As Theon stepped aboard, gulls erupted from cliff niches, wheeling overhead. He glanced back. Casterly Rock, once golden, now stood gray in the mist, its lion banners drooping damp. His wildfire scar remained, a gaping mouth at the cliff's belly, forever marking his passage. Oars dipped, water whispered. The fleet slipped northward into fog. Hours later, wind freshened, canvas unfurled. Salt spray kissed bruises cool. Theon stood at the prow, Tessa beside him clutching rail, eyes wide at endless water. He inhaled sea air that tasted of beginnings. Asha joined, rolling her shoulder carefully. "Where to, brother?" "Pike first," he said, surprising them both. "Then the north, if Jon Snow will have us." She arched a brow. "A kraken offering claws to a wolf." "The sea feeds many shores," he replied. "Perhaps we find new words for old oaths." A distant horn echoed, a farewell from Lannisport Harbor, or a warning. Either way, it faded behind spreading waves. Theon watched gulls until they vanished, until only horizon remained. Some debts, he knew, were paid not with gold or blood, but with the impossible work of living on, choosing again and again to stand, to breathe, to steer toward some better tide. He had miles yet to sail, storms yet to weather, but for this single heartbeat he felt the helm beneath his palms, the ocean opening, and the weight of old chains slip, just a little from wounded shoulders. Seabirds cried overhead, and the iron-born fleet rode on, northward through pearl-gray fog toward seas yet uncharted and fates not yet written.